and welcome to Jeremy's Retro Bar. I'm Jeremy, and this is my Retro Bar, and this week we're going to take a look at one of my favorite consoles of all time, the Nintendo GameCube. And specifically, we're going to be working on replacing the optical drive with a solid-state solution. But first, we're going to need to make ourselves a drink. So today we're going to be making one of the oldest and most classic cocktails of all time, a Sazerac. It's fairly simple as far as ingredients, but the process of building it is a little complicated. So we're gonna start by chilling our glass. And we're just gonna add ice to the glass, and we're just gonna let that chill. We're gonna set that off to the side. Then we're gonna take one sugar cube, and then we're gonna soak the sugar cube with Peychaud's bitters. I think that's probably pretty good. And then we're going to muddle the cube. Now we're gonna add 2 ounces of rye whiskey, and we're gonna stir. We're gonna remove the ice now that our glass has been chilled, and we're gonna rinse it with absinthe. We'll just use a 1/4 ounce to rinse. And we're just gonna swirl that around. We're gonna coat the glass with the absinthe, and then we're just gonna discard the rest of the absinthe. And then we'll pour our whiskey mixture into our serving glass. So we're gonna take a little bit of a lemon peel, and we're just going to squeeze that, put it on the edge of the glass or whatever. And there we have a Sazerac. Cheers. That's good. I like that. So lately, we've had the pleasure of having flash cards available to us for most cartridge-based systems, which of course is a cartridge which has a SD or micro SD, sometimes USB port on them. Load your SD card up with all your games, start it up, and get a whole library of different games to play on your classic video game system. This is great because it allows you to try things from different regions or try games that you've never tried before, and it just makes saves on wear and tear of the cartridge port on a lot of these systems. And so for the newer game consoles that start to use optical drives, there's starting to be these new optical disc replacements. What we're going to be doing today with this GameCube is installing GC Loader, which is a drop-in replacement DVD drive. And the beauty of this is there's not going to be any mods to the motherboard. We don't have to do any system level changes to it to make it work. We just replace the DVD drive with the GC Loader, and that's going to allow us to either load games individually off of SD cards or install some extra software which will allow us to have a menu system to load several games off of a single SD card. So yeah, let's get this thing open and get started. So the GC Loader package comes with everything you need to get started. A game bit screwdriver, a QR code to get to the website, the GC Loader itself, and some screws for mounting. Of course, we won't need any of that right now. Let's get it all out of the way and get our GameCube in here. We're going to turn the GameCube over and use the game bit screwdriver to unscrew the 4 screws. Some models don't require the game bit screwdriver, but mine does. Now with the screws removed, we can flip it over and remove the top of our GameCube. And oops, I left a game in here. So now I'm going to remove the front panel by grabbing these 2 clips on the left and right sides, and then just simply pulling the cable that connects the front panel to the rest of the GameCube. And I'll just set that aside to put back later. Now I'll remove the back panel just by pulling those 2 clips just like the front and setting that aside. I'll remove the side fan using a number 1 Phillips screwdriver. And I'll remove the black and red power cable so that I can pull this whole thing off. Using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, I'm going to remove the 3 screws on the left side, the 5 screws on the right side, and the 4 screws on the back side holding the DVD drive in place. And finally, I'm going to switch back to my number 1 Phillips screwdriver and remove the 4 screws in the front on each side of the memory card slots. And now we can just go ahead and pull our DVD drive off. And we can set the GameCube aside. So I go ahead and flip the DVD drive over, and we're going to remove this RF shield from the bottom of the DVD drive because we still need that for the GC loader. And I just put it on a cloth here because I don't want to scratch the laser because I might put this back in later. And I'm just using a number 1 Phillips screwdriver to remove these screws. It's slightly different for the 2 different GameCube models. And the website has a location of all the screws for your particular model, and mine has 6 screws, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove all 6 of them. And I'll just remove the RF shield and set the DVD drive aside. Now we're going to get out the actual GC loader, and it has pins that line up with the DVD pins. And it has 3 screws that are going to connect this to the RF shield, and one of them has a washer, and again on the website it's going to specify which of the screws gets the washer. For mine it's the leftmost screw hole. So we're going to put the connecting pins through this hole here on the RF shield and set this down and get the screws in here. They're very tiny and it's a little tricky, so just be patient. Now that we have this connected, we can see right here is where the SD card is going to go. And you can see we can just mount this back on to the GameCube just like the DVD drive was, only without all that extra hardware. And we're just going to place this back on top and use the number 2 Phillips screwdriver to install the 3 screws on the left, 5 screws on the right, 4 screws in the back, and then the 4 front screws using the number 1 Phillips screwdriver. And we'll attach our fan back here to the side using 2 screws, and then plug in the power cable again. And now the hardest part of this whole thing, which is getting this dumb ribbon cable to plug back into the ribbon cable slot. It just slots in, but you have to be at the right angle and have the right amount of force and not have the cable bend, and you can see here that it took me a couple of tries, but you get it eventually. It's real annoying. Now we'll just snap the front panel on and snap the back panel on. Put the lid back on. And screw our 4 screws back in. And that concludes the hardware portion of this tutorial. So for software, all you really need to do is put a SD card into your computer and format it as either FAT or exFAT. Now you can see on the left I have all my GameCube ISOs, and if I want to play these just one at a time, all I have to do is copy the file over to the SD card and rename it boot.iso. And the GC loader will read that and boot it right up, just as if I had put the disk in the drive. But of course, we've got 128 gigs on this SD card. We want to fill this up with games. And so what we're going to need to do in order to have more than one on the same SD card is to install a menu system called Swiss. To get Swiss, we're just going to go to this website here, which is just over on GitHub. We're just going to click and download our archive. I'm just going to drop it here on my desktop, unzip it, open the folder, and inside you can see there's a GC loader folder. And I'm just going to take that, which is already the boot ISO, and I'm going to drop that on my SD card. And we can see that the boot ISO successfully copied over, so now we can take our whole folder of games and then just move that or copy it right on over to our SD card, and we'll have an SD card full of games. Once it's done copying, which will take a while because it's several gigabytes, we can just go ahead and eject our SD card and we'll pop it into our GC loader on our GameCube. Alright, so here we are in the living room part of my retro bar, which you usually see in the background. And I've got the GameCube hooked up here, and this is all routed through to hook up to my TV. Now, I'm just running it in composite, so the picture quality isn't the best. I plan on doing an upgrade to that later. But for right now, let's see if our GC loader worked and if we can get any games to start. So go ahead and turn on our GameCube here. Got my controller ready to go. Nice, and there it is. Very blurry because it's a 4K television being blown up from standard def over composite, no less. But yeah, so you can see that Swiss loaded because we labeled it as the boot.iso. GC loader saw that, booted right into Swiss, and then every other ISO that we have on the SD card shows up here. So we've got all these games, and I'm gonna go ahead and play the first game that I ever actually played on a GameCube, which was Wave Race. I'll have to figure out what that's about, the SD card. And this is great. It starts right up. And I'll just play a really bad quick game, and I'll probably cut this short. It looks like I might have to power it down and then power it completely back up to get it up. I thought I could do a reset, but anyway. Mario Strikers. Well, that's about it for this week. Pretty simple and straightforward project. Just opening up the GameCube, pulling out the DVD drive, and popping in the GC loader. No soldering, no modding, no weird things that we had to do, which is pretty great. I like how it works. I like how simple it is to get to all the games now, and I don't have to worry about having cabinets full of games for this. I can just have them all on a nice compact SD card. I know there are mods that people do where they extend the SD card slot and 3D print a thing so you can pop them out and switch them out easier. I've seen things like that, which are pretty cool. I think my next mod for this GameCube is going to be getting better video output out of it, because the composite scaled up to 4K is just not cutting it. And I know there's some pretty cool and pretty new things out there that will handle that. But anyway, if you like this, go ahead and give it a like and tell a friend, because you know, I like people seeing the content, and people seem to like what I'm doing. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.